next thing I know, they're taking me in an ambulance to the hospital nearby. And I think that's where they did the x-rays. And that's where they found out my...
We are here at Beyond the Game, and I am so grateful to have one of my old ex-roommates with me, Mr. Danny Frazier.
Mm-hmm.
And Danny Frazier is maybe one of the most unique young men who ever played football or even sports at BYU, I think, because Danny has some unique stories, some very unique perspectives on how things have been, were.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to have Danny here. Thanks for being here, Danny.
You're my man. You know that. Anything for you.
We've been sharing a couple funny stories here. We'll go back over those, some of them, but I was unaware. Now, this young man is a few years older than Danny, all right? I played high school sports at Rancho Cordova High School, California, and we had a very diverse school. And so I was the only white dude in the running back field. We had my friend Samoan Samuelo Ukulele Samalo, who was our fullback, and then Max Venable and Daryl Venable. Max ended up playing Major League Baseball for the Giants and the Angels.
Cool.
And then me. I'm the token white guy.
Now, you weren't token, man. You could ball.
It was. But anyway, I want to share with you about Danny Frazier, because when I got home from my mission in 1977, Mr. Frazier here is one of the most unique guys at BYU. And
probably. First
of all, back then you were only 6'6". I understand you're 6'7" now?
Dude, I was 6'4".
You were only 6'4"?
I came in and they measured us one day at a pro day, and I was like 6'4 3/4, 6'4 1/2".
You're like my son. If you're 6'4 3/4, you got to say 6'5".
I guess I should, huh? I was 6'5". Where's the camera?
Yeah. Danny towers over most of us physically, and I'll guarantee you emotionally and spiritually. He's a great young man, and that's why he's here to share some of these stories. And the editor will have to edit my parts out, but Mr. Frazier has some wonderful.
If I see anything I don't like, I'm coming after you, bro. I'm kidding.
Danny, back in the late 1970s and early 1980s, there was a professional football player named Robert Brazil. Mm-hmm. He was an outside linebacker for the Houston Oilers. I just remember that he was tall and lanky. Now, I think I'm remembering this right, because Danny Frazier reminded me so much of Robert Brazil, and everybody throughout the program, in fact, anybody who knew football at BYU back then, knew that this young guy would someday be in the NFL. He just had that kind of talent.
In mentality, I was semi-nuts.
You had to be a little bit nuts, too. Yeah. But trust me, Danny has a good head on his shoulders. But anyway, we ended up being roommates, and then we had a similar experience.
So many.
But I want to hear, first of all, your freshman year, I'm on a mission.
Right.
And in 1978, you just told me that you got in a fight on the football field against Oregon State.
77, man. My freshman
was that 77? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we redshirted.
We redshirted together, 78. Yeah.
Tell me about what happened in Oregon, at Oregon State.
So I came from Tooele High School, just to give you some background.
You mean Thule?
Yeah, Thule. For those who are, just wondering.
Not from Utah.
Nah, it's Thule in Utah.
Tooele.
And we were proud of ourselves for maybe one reason or another, but the big reason was if we didn't win the game, we usually won the fight after the game.
Whoa. I didn't know that about Tooele.
Tooele Hyans. Oh yeah.
Wow.
We were an angry group.
You had a reputation.
We had to maintain it. So,
really?
yeah, we got in more fights than
I don't know, Danny, you just don't seem like that guy to me. So
I'm not.
You got to explain this to me.
I'm not. It's just like everybody always got me.
Everybody
into those.
was your friend at BYU.
Yeah.
Everybody.
And it was like, I'm like, I don't want to. All right, I better fight. My buddies are going to fight. So I might as well. I can't just not. And next thing I know, you're in a fight. But so I didn't mind that. I thought that was part of the deal, sort of. And so we go to Oregon State. And I think, wasn't that
now this is your freshman year.
Yeah, 1977.
And most freshmen don't travel with the varsity team. So do you remember any of the other guys who may have traveled with the varsity team?
Well, like I told you, we were talking earlier, Scott Reber did. Did Shefflin? I don't
Bill
know.
Shefflin? Were you in the same class?
Yeah.
Okay.
He might have.
Tell me about this game.
But yeah,
sounds like you're playing on the special teams.
Yeah. I was like backup linebacker to Larry Miller. You remember him?
Of course.
Holy moly.
He was in my class.
Yeah. Him and Matt Mendenhall and Rod Wood and those guys were all linebackers, and they scared me. They were just huge. Remember? I mean, Larry Miller probably was 6'6", 6'5", 250, just
big, strong
monster.
Kid.
Rod, I never saw him get knocked down.
No.
But so, anyways, I'm backing up Larry Miller. I don't know that I ever really would have backed him up, but because I never went into the game, he never came out on offense. And we were beating the snot out of people and up by 40, which was a lot. But,
yeah.
So anyway, we're
77. That was the quarterback that year was Gifford Nielsen.
Yeah, but he got hurt. But anyway, but this is at Oregon State, and we ran this. You can't even do it anymore now. The peel back block thing where you
create a wall.
Yeah, and then you get them going one way, and then the punt guy takes off the other way, and these guys all have to turn and face you and run right into you. And man, we ran that just all the time. And so I just, hit my guy that was coming at me, and he never saw me. I wasn't telling him, and, knocked the snot out of him. He went down, but the ref threw the flag.
He called clipping on you.
Called clipping on
But it sounds like he turned around and was
That's
facing up.
I'm telling you, man, I did. That's what happened. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I want to think that. Okay, keep going. So your Oregon State guy's down on the ground, but there's a yellow flag next to him.
And you know how Lavelle and Fred were about that stuff, man. Penalties, period. They were just like, what? I didn't. I promise. And so then the next we had to run it again. But they wouldn't call the same play because they didn't want me to screw it up, apparently. So they called just a punt up the middle, or a punt return up the middle. All I had to do was just stand in front of my guy and let Chronister make the decision which way to go.
Yeah, Mike Chronister was a wide receiver and also returned punts back then.
Yeah. And so I'm just blocking this kid and running down the field with him, getting in his way. And next thing I know, I felt like he, intentionally threw an elbow and, hit me in the head.
You don't do that to a Tooele guy.
Not at all. You don't do that to anybody, but much less a Tooele guy. So it was easy then. It was like, oh, this how this works? So I hit him back in the head with an elbow.
With an elbow.
And then
your elbows are probably a little longer than his.
I had a little more reach probably.
Yeah, you did.
But we're all in pads, man. So we're just sitting there not hurting each other, just like,
it just
I'm
looks
grabbing
funny.
him. Yeah. I'm grabbing him. He's grabbing me, and I'm punching at him, and he's punching at me. And I think we ended up on the ground, or a bunch of other guys jumped in it. But all I remember is I'm looking around after they pull us apart, and I just see Chronister. He's just like sitting on like the 40-yard line, shaking his head, going, hurry up, get this over with, let's play. You know, and I was like, I got in a fight, yay! And I run off the field because I think they threw me out of the game, or I think they threw me out of the game.
Really?
I don't remember exactly, but I know I was ending up off the field on the bench. And I'm running off the field thinking, oh, I'm truly part of it. Yeah, I just did something there. And the Phil, he grabs me as I'm running off the field and grabs me by the front of my pad, you know how you can grab either side of those. And I promise, I think he lifted me off the ground. And he just goes, we don't do that kind of crap here. And just shoves me back towards the bench. Sit
That's
down
the most demonstrative I've ever heard of Lavelle Edwards.
That's Lavelle.
He
And
cared
that's
about
it.
you.
Well, he would have done that to any of us, but we would have that's like somebody just berating you and hollering at you and yelling at you. And all he did was say 5 words and toss you towards a bench. And that was like, oh man, you're totally deflated because that's just how Lavelle was. He didn't have to say a whole lot to get his point across. So I go sit on the bench and I'm thinking, oh man, I'm never going to play again for BYU. They don't do that stuff here. I didn't know. And I just sit there with my helmet off, just my head in my hands going, oh, what do I do? How do I make this up? And lo and behold, Fred walks over, Fred Whittingham, linebackers coach, and he looks at me and goes, yeah, couldn't take it anymore, eh?
And this is Fred's voice. So in the
just did
NFL,
his voice.
he got hit in the larynx, and so Fred speaks, "Hey Lacey, get over here."
Yeah.
So I can hear him saying,
you
that.
know exactly.
So what did he say to you again?
He goes, he just comes over to the bench and kind of looks down the bench at me and goes, couldn't take it anymore, huh? And it was like, he understands. He's like, sometimes you just got to let that crap just happens. But I'm half crying. And look back at, I look at her and go, yeah. I don't know what he thought, man. I don't know if he thought I was a sissy or what, but I was like, yeah. And that was the end of it. You know what I mean?
But you were the backup to Larry Miller that year, right? And Larry Miller was the starter.
Yeah.
He was an all-whack linebacker, giant guy, not as tall as Danny, but a big kid.
Oh, yeah.
A big kid.
Amazing.
And as a freshman, you're backup.
Yeah.
So you're important to Fred Whittingham.
Well,
You're
probably,
really important to him back then. He wouldn't express that to you, but you were.
Well, and you know how it was, man. You better do what you can do when you get the chance to do it, or else they'll find somebody else.
That's right.
And so that was the other thing I learned too. You get a rep. Everybody's talking about reps, but they don't understand. A rep is like your whole world, your whole football career
Focused.
in one. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you get a rep, you don't screw it up. You do it right, and you do it that time, and then maybe you can get back in line and do another one.
Or they'll just boot you off the team.
Yeah, or they'll just say, stand over there. We're going to work with these guys. But nah, and Fred was just like real cool about that.
That's awesome.
He was great. I just love that man. He taught me a ton. Him and Lavelle and Norm too. Norm was like,
how did you get involved with Norm? I mean, Norm was an offensive coach, so
yeah, but he was Polynesian, so he was closest thing to a minority on the football team. I don't think there was anybody else except Norm that was of any nationality other than white Anglo-Saxon woman Protestant. I don't know. But he goes, no, I'll take it. When I got on campus, he goes, yeah, well, I got you have any issues, you come see me. I'm like, okay.
That's cool.
Yeah. And so he goes, here's your roommate. He put me and Reber together on campus. Yeah. And so he just, he made sure we were covered as far as all the stuff, extracurricular school, tutors, dorm rooms.
Fast forward 1979.
Well,
let's talk about 78.
Oh, yeah.
78. and I've talked to some other guys, because when you go through the players who redshirted in 1978, I don't know what the coaching staff was thinking. Like, they weren't throwing away 1978.
No.
You know, they never would do that. But when you look at Danny Frazier, Glenn Titensor, Tom Holmoe, and
Gary
there's
Kama,
Gary Kama,
Glenn Red,
you and me. And
I mean, who else? Didn't Shefflin redshirt with us too?
I think he did.
I think it was a DB in redshirted with us.
So you had a whole starting team that just wasn't playing.
Yeah.
It was hard to redshirt. It wasn't easy, but I needed it. I'm coming back off my mission.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I don't know how you and I connected except through our redshirt experience.
I don't know what happened, but I
Or was it that dating experience we had on Center Street?
Nah, it was something before. I think, remember all those guys you just named ended up starting next year, and we were all the scout team for the offense.
That's right.
And they would tell us to let them run stuff without us really trying hard, so they could get a good look.
At us when we
because we would say no.
Well.
They would look at us and go, "Hey guys, come on, just." And you were playing strong side, right?
I was that year.
Yeah, and we would just look at each other and go, "Nah, we're not gonna let them have this one."
No,
it was anything they did. It was like, we just wanted some goal line reps.
So I remember a couple times who was it? Todd Thompson, or one of the offensive linemen would line up and says, "Lacey, we're running that play, but let me hook you." You know. Okay. What are you? Yeah. But we would stop them frequently. No wonder the offense had it was an interesting year.
Yeah, it was.
When they were mixing Jim McMahon and Mark Wilson.
Yeah. Oh, and Filiaga Jr. played with us too. He
Junior Filiaga. Was Brad and I?
No, he didn't. Yes. He redshirted too.
I think he did too.
Brad redshirted too. Matt didn't. I don't think Matt Mendon at all.
No, he was playing.
Yeah, I don't think he redshirted, but there was a bunch of us.
Those were the days, and I remember in the weight room just working out so hard. And I think that's where we became friends.
It might have been.
You were dedicated to that effort, and I was too. And you know what? After the weightlifting, I remember going to the Smith Fieldhouse because I love playing basketball.
Yeah.
We probably
I bet you that's where it was, man.
Playing basketball.
Playing ball on the same team. I'll bet you that's what it was.
Okay.
Because there was only a handful of us who were crazy enough to go work out, then go play basketball for 9
hours. All right, so Danny Frazier is now 6'6", 6'5 3/4", whatever. He's the only guy who kept growing until he's like 30 years old, because now he's 6'7".
Don't ask me why.
I think the Jazz need you.
Oh, no, they don't. No.
But I want
BYU might.
Now that's a different
kidding,
story.
Man.
We can talk. That would be fun.
Nah.
But I remember, this is enjoyable to me to think about, because I had a Honda Accord, kind of the first edition. You know, so Accords back then in 1978 were smaller.
About the size of their couch.
And this one, I bought it used, and it had mirrored windows in the back, on the very back, and the 2 side windows. So anyway, Danny and I are roommates, and I have a date, and he has a date, and we're going out on a date. So I'm sitting here, and I guess I didn't look very big. I'm just kind of low riding. And we're on Center Street going towards a restaurant or a movie theater.
Yeah,
I forget.
I think we were going to the movies. So we'd already come from eating somewhere.
You know? And Danny's in the back seat with his date. They're just sitting there, and we're driving down Center Street minding our own business. But we're driving by the one bar in all of Provo. I forget what the name was.
Jeepers.
But it was a cowboy bar. And there were a couple cowboys out there, and this dude looked like he was trying to look pretty tough. And I had my window down, you know. I'm driving. And he said something like, "Hey, Zuby, who you think you are?" You know, or something like that. So I just looked at him and said, "Who do you think you are, man?"
I got to tell him, man, because when you have this look on your face, like, Why? What? And I saw you from the back seat have that look on your face, and I'm thinking, what's up, man? This date's going fine. What's he upset about? But go ahead.
This dude's walking across because we're going east on Center Street, and it's slow traffic, but apparently there wasn't a lot of traffic going west, and so he crosses the street like he's going to pick a fight with me, you know? And I'm saying, man, this cowboy is pretty confident.
Yeah.
And so I put the car in park and I opened the door, but there was this dude in the back seat, friend of mine, that opened the door at the same time. And when he peeled himself upwards, this cowboy all of a sudden changed his tune. Like, hey, I have no problem with you guys. You have a good day, or something like that.
He's just like totally, and I'm like going, oh. I thought when Lacey got out, I just got to back his play. Whatever he's gonna do, I got it times.
I tell you what, when Danny Frazier stepped out of that back seat and backed me up on that, I'll never forget that. Even though it seems kind of silly that we're sowing our wild oats, acting tough against cowboys, it was the funniest little event.
It was.
I'm sure our dates were super impressed.
Oh, I'm sure. I wasn't anybody I remember seeing much after that. So
I know.
I don't know.
They wrote us off.
I think that was
She probably went out with that cowboy. All right, that's enough of my silliness.
Moving right along.
Yeah, moving right along. All right, so Frazier, you were fun to have around. I mean, you had the biggest smile and the biggest personality, and everybody on BYU's campus was your friend.
Yeah.
But I remember once coming out of the tunnel at Wyoming or something, and people weren't being nice to you.
No.
And that bothered me.
No, I mean, it was there. And I think now that I think about it, part of the problem was at Oregon State. The reason I kind of got in the fight too was because, the N-word got thrown around. And me being black, I'm playing on BYU's team, one of the few black guys that was, out there. I got called an Uncle Tom.
Right.
And you know what that is, but I don't know if most people know. It's a derogatory thing that black people say about other black people
who get along too well with the whites.
There you go.
Back then.
Yeah. So I'm being called Uncle Tom, and all kinds of crap, and I'm just like, I know how to take care of that. And that was all you had, And so next thing you know, you're fighting. I mean, it doesn't do any good to scream anything back.
No.
And so most of the time you just had to ignore it, but it kind of grates on you a little bit. But yeah. So yeah, with that was some of the stuff I was getting at Wyoming. As we're running on to the field. And they had black guys on their team.
Of course they did, And, well, there's a big history about the blacks, BYU, the priesthood at the church, and the Wyoming 7 or 12, or, that's interesting. And I respect what everybody went through back then. I respect what you went through. It wouldn't have been easy. Wouldn't have been easy. So anyway, let's fast forward. We had this wonderful Redshirt team. And now 1979 is coming up, man. And I'm serious. We know. I mean, to a man on our team, I think everybody knew we're going to have a good team.
Yeah.
Can't wait to start playing.
Yeah.
And who was our first game that year?
Texas A&M, man.
Texas A&M.
They were ranked in the top 10, too.
They were ranked. And they had, I think, the world's fastest human.
Curtis Dickey.
Was Sports Illustrated talked about him. And I think he's the guy who grew up in a poor town. And to run the 220, he started at the back of the end zone. And he'd run all the way to the goalpost and grab the goalpost, then run back.
I wouldn't be surprised, man.
And he was still breaking world records. So, I mean, they had a great team.
Yeah.
Texas A&M had a great team. And I had switched over to offense, so I'm playing fullback.
Yeah.
Danny's playing weak side linebacker. Glenn Red's on the strong side. We've got Jim McMahon is redshirting that year, so Mark Wilson's the full-time captain. So we hit this A&M game, and it was something we were all focusing on. I mean, for a year. I'm serious.
Yeah.
And the coaching staff, the players, and it was a game that will never be forgotten. But bittersweet in a lot of ways, Mr. Frazier. I don't know. Do you want me to tell the story or tell us what your visions were going into that game?
No,
Tell us a little bit about that game, because this is you're number one. You're this tall, lanky, fast, weak side linebacker. BYU is going to have a great team. This is going to be a great year.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
But I mean, like you just described, I wasn't alone. There was like a bunch of us that were like super good. That's the only way to say it. We were like super good. And John Neal was another one.
That's right. John Neal, strong safety, who ended up coaching at Oregon State for a while.
No way.
Yeah.
That's funny. But yeah, no, there was a bunch of us that were really good. And so I was planning on, I don't know how to say it because I never thought I was going to lose. I don't think we ever thought we were going to lose. I never heard anybody say that or even feel that way because, oh my gosh, man. I don't know of a guy on our team who wouldn't just fight and kick and scratch and bite to the bitter end. And so it's probably, I understand, teamwork and getting along and all that stuff. But I'm not going to lie. I never helped anybody else up off the field after I, tackled them. That was offensive to me. It was like, this guy's trying to go past me.
I have a son who felt that way. I always wondered, all right, keep going. What?
Yeah, and I'm like, I'm not going to.
So you're my enemy while you're on the field, right?
Well, not necessarily enemy. It's just like, I'm not going to help you. I'm not going to give you a little bit of energy that might make you go past me because I helped you up and saved you the hassle of having to get up off the field yourself. At least that was my feeling. Mostly I probably just didn't like them. But no, I don't. That's just how I was. I don't know how anybody else was, but I never remember helping anybody up off the field or anything like that. Like kind of you see guys do now, which is cool. But we didn't dance around and jump up and down every time we made one good play either. It was just like, dude, we have to get you back to the huddle. It's time to do
this
it again.
happens every day. Let's go.
Yeah. So for me, I wasn't really focused on anything other than what I had to do. And that's the way we all were. We were really focused in on what our jobs were.
Against Texas A&M, I was running fullback.
Yeah.
And they had this defensive end named Jacob Green.
Yep.
Do you remember him?
I do.
I think in the NFL later, he went on and was all pro.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this man, this dude was big.
Yeah.
All right. Now, I was not a small fullback. I was fast and I was bigger than the average fullback.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm supposed to put my shoulder pad on his outside leg and get my head out there. So I'm blocking him, on a sweep.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did that. I always knock those guys down. I at least get in their way. I trip them up, This dude's leg ran right through my shoulder pad, threw me like a rag doll back. I said, welcome to big time football.
Yeah.
This dude, because I'm not big. I'm not small. I'm not slow. Usually I'm going to put that guy down.
Dude, you probably weighed 230.
Yeah. And I was fast. And so anyway, it was that kind of game. And I'm sure on the offensive line and the fullbacks you were running into, you were having similar experiences. It was a tough game.
And we were, you had to really work hard because that Dickey kid, they ran him on a sweep one time and it went for 10 yards. But luckily the refs saw that I got the angle on him. And I grabbed him by his shoulder pad. It would have been a horse collar now.
Back then it wasn't.
Yeah, they didn't have it. But I slowed him down enough to where he took a step back and stepped out of bounds.
Oh.
But he literally threw me off, and I just went flying off into their bench. You know, that was on their side of the field.
Whoa.
And I'll never forget, because he took off another 5-10 yards down the field, and John Neal and Tom Holman and those guys had to, you know, they made the play. And they were like, Frazier, come on, you got to get there. I'm like, I did. And luckily the refs backed me up and made it. It was only like a 2-yard, 3-yard gain instead of like the 10 or 12. But that just gives you an idea. Those guys were big and fast,
They were athletic,
hard to bring down, and we chased them all over the place. And so,
but it was a low-scoring game.
yeah.
And our defense back then was so good.
Yeah.
Literally. I mean, during those seasons, our offense scored so frequently, and we scored so quickly that you on defense had to play like a game and a half worth of plays.
Oh, no doubt.
You just had way more plays.
No doubt.
And so for you guys to hold Texas A&M to, you know, to the low score, I mean, that was phenomenal.
Yeah, and it was mostly those guys. I don't think I played more than 2/3 of the first quarter before I got hurt.
Well, let me tell that my perspective of Danny Frazier. I'm on the sideline as a fullback. All right. So defense is out there, and I'm ready to go out and play when you guys stop them. And all of a sudden, I see my roommate, Danny Frazier, running off kind of jogging, looking taller than normal. And you were holding one of your shoulder pads. I don't know why. It's like maybe got a stinger or something, you know, but
that's what I thought.
you had your shoulder up, holding your helmet up, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so you're jogging off the field. Oh, Danny must have a little injury or something. I didn't pay much attention to that at that time. What happened, Mr. Frazier?
So we're chasing the same dude, Curtis Dickey, right? And like I said, everybody on that team, on our defense, was like really, really keyed in. And so everything I saw, Glenn Red on the other side of the field saw exactly the same. So they ran what's called a drop
Glenn
play.
is the strong side linebacker, and Danny's the weak side linebacker. Is he coming up the middle?
Yeah, he's coming up the middle on a drop play.
He's on a drop play or okay.
No, it was a drop play.
Not a counter. It was
it was a draw play.
So yeah, they've tried to fake you guys out like it's going to be a pass, and so all of a sudden you see it's a run.
Yeah.
All right, so you and Glenn see the same thing.
So we drop back like we're supposed to, but we were always taught, and this is just football nonsense, but you go back in the way you came out. So if you took an angle, a little bit, 30, 40 degree angle back, you got to take that same angle back in. And, that's how we were trained and how we were drilled. So we both did it at exactly the same time because that's how we both knew how to do it. And, dude, we caught that dude. We caught Dickey. And
fastest human in the world at the time.
And he knew he was caught. I swear he knew he was caught because he ducked. He dropped below the level where me and Red were going to meet him. And I think he did. He fumbled the ball anyways because I think one of us got underneath him and squirted the ball loose.
Let me share something real quick to interrupt you for a second. Hold that thought. Glenn Red went on and played many years in the NFL as a strong side linebacker for the New Orleans Saints.
New Orleans.
So Glenn's one of the best strong side linebackers we've ever had too.
Yeah, he was a monster. He was a stud. And we just hit him at the same time.
So it was a fumble, but he's underneath you.
Yeah, but he dropped. And so me and, back then there was no, you led with your head because that's how you could inflict the most pain and stuff. So we're head into this guy and planning on just, putting our helmets right in his body somewhere. And he drops, but me and Glenn just kept going and just hit each other head on, man. And, all I remember is, that one kind of hurt. I swear that's all I remember. It didn't just ring a bell and go, oh, you're in deep trouble. But then when I tried to get up, right, it was like, now this is not normal. This feels a little bit more. And so I just sat down for a minute and thought, yeah, I'm going to take my time here. And then the coaches or the trainers came out and I felt better. And also, I wasn't laying out there on the field.
No.
And there's no way I was going to do that. So they asked me what was hurting and I told them, they said, well, can you walk? Oh yeah, I can walk. You're not carrying me off this field. Get up, run off the field. And of course, Fred's like, hey, you all right? Like, oh yeah, I'll be right back. I was not going to miss out anything. I wasn't going to do that. And so, but check this out, man. I get over to the sidelines and I'm talking to the trainers. And one of the doctors was a neurosurgeon, one of the trainers, one of the team doctors. And so he's sitting there and he's looking at me and I'm like, yeah, I got this pain right between my shoulders. I didn't even think neck. I just thought, this weird pain right between my shoulders. And he goes, huh, well, let's just be careful. Come on over here. I'm like, all right. And then he goes, lay down over here. And I'm like, wait, what's going on? He goes, just don't worry about it. You'll be fine. Just lay down over here. And I for some reason, didn't know there was a stretcher underneath me. Or maybe there wasn't one at that point. But he tells me to lay down over there on the sideline. And then he takes a pair of scissors and starts cutting up my pants and keeps going and cuts up my jersey. And I'm like, no, I can't. Wait, hold up, man. I got to have my. He goes, oh, don't worry. We'll get you some more. I'm like, okay. And so then they cut my pads off. And I don't know if they had a stretcher or what, but I know I didn't walk. And I went back into the training room.
In the stretcher?
I don't know.
Or did you? Okay.
I don't remember whether it was a stretcher or whether I walked. I don't think I walked. I think it was on a stretcher
Probably.
At that point.
Yeah. And
so then the guy starts poking me with needles in my toes. And you feel that? Yeah. And you feel that? Yeah. And, I thought I'd passed all his tests, because I felt everything. And he goes, okay. I said, well, okay. Am I going to be back at least for the third quarter? And he goes, we'll see. He didn't tell me anything about possible neck problems. And then next thing I know, they're taking me in an ambulance to the hospital nearby. And I think that's where they did the x-rays. And that's where they found out this cervical vertebrae had been shattered into a bunch of little pieces on the hit. And so then I think the doctor told me then. He said, no, we gotta get you back to Utah. You're done for the game.
Wow.
I'm like, oh, man. And after that, got on a flight, Learjet, just me and the fellas.
Some doctors.
Yeah, a bunch of doctors. And I'm just like chilling on this flight, and they strapped me down. I could only look up and all that.
Yeah, they'll have your head immobilized, right?
Yeah. I was totally immobilized. And then they got me back to the hospital. I think it was Primary Children's, and they said, well, we'll do some more x-rays and some more tests. Yeah, they did all that. And then they had to wait for the swelling to go down before they could do surgery. They said, yeah, we're going to have to do surgery. And my mom and everybody was there, and they're like, well.
Was this the next day, Sunday?
I don't remember. It might have been a day or two after. I really don't remember. It was just like, holy moly, man, I'm not playing football. That's all I really thought. I was like, I want to play football. When can I play football? I mean, you know how it was. That's all we thought about.
That's all we thought about.
And so then the guys
That
like,
and accounting.
oh, of course.
Yeah.
Thanks for throwing that in. That's going to make my wife feel happy. But yeah, so, you know, a couple, 3 days later, everybody, you know, Lavelle, of course, and Fred, you guys had all come up and seen me, and I'm just kind of chilling like this, like Frankenstein.
And you had this halo
Yeah.
around your head.
Yeah. That was weird.
And I just remember feeling I just couldn't hold it. I mean,
For real?
seeing you in that halo, and you were still smiling. Your attitude will always at least portray your happiness. But this life is a short life, and I bet that you can look back and say, hey, there are some good things that came out of this. But man, at that moment, I felt hell. It was hard. Here's my friend Danny, one of the most capable athletes in the world, and he's got this metal erector set around his head, and it hurt.
Oh,
Hey, but let me step back for a second, because I wasn't feeling it. I didn't, it was a tough game. A&M was a tough game. It was a close game, So here I am in the third quarter, and I'm getting cramps in my calves.
Really?
Yeah. It's hot and humid.
Yeah,
We
humid
were
out there, man.
so Marv Robertson, I don't know what they were giving me. They said it was some like a potassium shot or something, So they were giving me injections of potassium or something. And while I'm getting this injection, I overhear Marv and one of the other docs say, Frazier broke his neck.
No way.
They'd heard about it. I can't. I'm your friend.
Yeah.
I'm on the team.
Yeah.
I'm in the field of play. I don't know. It was just the weirdest thing in the world. So I'm almost embarrassed to say this because it's melodramatic. But I said, man, if I can do anything to win this game, I want to win it from Frazier.
Are you serious?
I'm serious. I said that. I'm getting on when I heard that. So anyway, I can't apologize enough for what happened to you. But tell us what, I mean, there's some cool things that happened in your life later.
Yeah.
So
First off, you got to finish the game, man. You got to tell what happened.
Oh, we'll tell that story some other time.
No, you did end up winning the game.
I was in the right spot at the right time, and Mark Wilson was the guy who did it. I'll just switch all the way. Bill Scheffler. No, it was Tim Halverson.
Yeah.
Blocked a punt.
Oh, really?
Yeah. All right, so we're losing 17-10, I think.
Or 16-10.
Could be 16-9.
No, yeah, because it was a 2-point conversion.
That's
Yours
right.
was.
So anyway, we're losing by 7 points. Low scoring game. And there's like 2, maybe 3 minutes to go. It's near the end of the game. And, back then we had some really good special teams. And Tim Halverson snuck in there and blocked a punt against A&M. So now we have the ball on their 20-yard line. All right? And Mark Wilson, and the crowd was so loud.
Oh, dude, that was insane.
Do you remember that game?
Yeah.
It was as loud as it ever gets.
Insane.
I couldn't. So anyway, long story short, we get down, and Doug Scull thought I was Big Boy. He called me Big Boy. So we're going to give the ball to Big Boy. And they handed me the ball. We're still down 7. We're on like the 2-yard line. Handed me the ball. Now we're 3 yards away.
Yeah.
I got tackled for a loss.
I think everybody knew what was coming on that one.
Big Boy didn't make it in. So then they called a kind of a tight end delay to Clay Brown. He catches the touchdown.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So now we're down by 1. And it was interesting because in between, I had taken the play out. So I was listening to Doug Scoville and Lavelle Edwards. I was bringing the next play in. This was during the time going down into the end zone. And I heard Doug Scoville say, hey, when we score, he said, when we score, not if. He said, when we score, are we going for 1 or 2? And I heard Lavelle say 2.
Did he really?
Yes.
What a stud.
I know. I mean, tying Texas A&M down there would have been a victory.
Oh, no doubt.
You
man.
know?
Yeah.
So I knew what was going to happen. So I'm on the field now. I get pushed back 1 yard, but Clay Brown scores a touchdown, and we call a timeout. And Mark Wilson goes over to talk to the coaches, Lavelle and Doug. And Mark asks him, well, what are we going to run? And Doug called for some kind of timing play to the wide receiver in the back of the end zone. You catch it over your shoulder. And Mark said, no, let's run the fake draw pass that we had just put in like the week before. Where the fullback fakes like he's going to block this middle linebacker, Mike linebacker, and then he peels off.
Yeah.
And you're trying to make it look like a draw play. Who runs a draw play on goal line? I don't know. But it worked.
But it's hard to stop as a linebacker, though.
That's right. And then the linebacker, he could have stuffed me, but he let me go.
Yeah. Once he saw you didn't have the ball.
Right.
That's what. Yeah.
So he let me go. Then the problem was Jacob Green going after Mark Wilson. So Mark's scrambling off to his left. I'm out here. I'm all alone, but he has to toss it. And he did. And when he first let go of it, Danny, I said, there's no way I can catch this. It looked like it was 10 yards in front of me.
I saw this play.
And I don't know how I caught that ball. Back then, I thought I caught it one-handed, just diving.
Yeah.
But it looks like I had both hands.
It looked like you literally used your whole body to catch that ball. Feet, hands, mouth, head, arms. I'm sitting there watching this play, and you literally have the ball wrapped up.
Yeah.
And it was like, there's no way.
So we went for 2. We went for 2. We won the game, I think 18-17.
Yeah.
And Frazier is back at the hospital. And I don't know, that's bittersweet. I can brag and feel good about that football game, but going the next day in Salt Lake and seeing you in the hospital just broke me up.
Yeah, that was sucky.
But I'm proud of you for what you've done. And, all right, so his football career was over. I don't think you can come back from that kind of a damage to your...
Not then,
So this kid is tall and athletic. He's on the BYU basketball team. And the proudest moment of mine was, I think it was from the baseline. You hit a little jumper.
There you go.
You hit a little jumper against, who did you hit it against?
I think it was Wyoming.
Okay, good.
Because it was a team we were blowing out. That's why we got gotten in.
So Danny Frazier might be one of the only guys with 100% shooting percentage as a BYU basketball player.
1 for 1, baby. 1 for 1.
And Danny, we could talk forever about your mission, about blacks in the priesthood.
Oh, yeah.
We could talk forever about you becoming an attorney and your son Jameson playing football at BYU.
Yeah.
It's
amazing.
I'm so proud of you and your family, but grateful that you were in the back seat when that cowboy was going to come rip my head off.
No, you didn't need me.